You're listening to the AFL Unlimited podcast, where we tackle all the hot topics in the AFL and bring you up to speed with everything you need to know in the football landscape. We'll take a look at this weekend's games and have some mixed discussion about what to expect. Let's head up to the box for the opening bounce. G'day guys, welcome to another episode of AFL Unlimited. It is our round 3 review episode. Boys, good to have you this Easter Monday.
Easter evening, yeah, it's great.
It's very late in the evening. It's probably the latest we have recorded, and this podcast might be a bit wild because of that. But it was a massive week of football. It feels like it was going to Thursday last week, and that's why it was, because it was exactly that. It was a very long week. We've got a bit to get through. There's a bit of footy news around, which is good, because normally we talk about news off field, but on field there were some big winners and some big losers. So, Tiz, who are one of the big winners of this week?
Tiz, come on, you okay?
A big winner this week.
I think
I'll tell you what, the Western Bulldogs.
That's so great.
Biggest winning margin ever recorded for them. They were 128-point winners over the weekend. Their biggest win ever. I think their previous was 120 points in 1985. And I'm trying to think of Bruce, 10 goals.
Yeah.
What a man.
that player who kicked 10 goals, yeah. Probably one of the worst players ever to kick 10 goals, but that's okay.
Wow.
Yep.
Harshly.
Well, based off his form last year, his and Norton's form in that Bulldogs forward line has improved dramatically this year. And it's great to see. And I think we were talking the other day about how the Bulldogs have been playing this handball-happy, stand on the mark gameplay for a couple of years now.
Yeah, it's pretty intense, but
Yeah,
they're doing pretty well. But you talk about Bruce, and really, if there's anything we've gathered from the early rounds, it's that potentially the big forward role is finally back. Kicking bags is back. You know, we've seen a few players do it. Old mate Harry Mackay, my best friend from last week, has come out and kicked 7 for the Blues, and it looks like just goals are back.
It's good to see. I think everybody likes a big key forward, don't they? And I think the ball movement, Jake, is definitely something that has helped that. More one-on-ones, and just nice to see some big key forwards. There's something nostalgic about that, a big key forward tearing it apart. And you boys are dressed awfully nicely. I mean, Chook's come straight from the MCC, you've come straight from dinner. I feel like me and Tiz are underdressed. I mean, not that that's really relevant for a podcast.
If it's any consolation, I can't feel the roof of my mouth because I burnt it on the palmy that I wolfed down trying to get here. So another big winner from this week was, who have I got on the list here? Sydney.
Swans.
I think it's time to talk about the Swans and take them seriously, boys.
Yikes.
We sort of glossed over them in the last couple of weeks because I thought, honestly, it might have been a flash in the pan, but geez, they might be the real deal.
Well, you got to take it more serious than we did. I think most of us probably thought, they beat Adelaide, and okay, they got Brisbane. The lines were a little bit off, whatever. But if you come to the G and you knock the Tigers off, then you got to take them serious. I mean, they're young, of course, so there will be some inconsistencies, but I think their youth is kind of the reason behind the success at the moment.
It's a big drive, and I think it's helped give a bit of a shock to the senior guys, because I think in this game against Richmond, guys like Parker and Kennedy and that did actually step up their game a little bit more. I think they were kind of slagged off in the first few rounds, and the others just pushed them through. You know, our new draftees and that were playing awesome. And yes, I'm saying our now. It seems.
Chuka has joined the Sydney Football Club in the last 5 days. Networking in the MCC, but
did you see much of that Richmond-Sydney game? I know we're talking on the group, but Richmond never make some of the mistakes that they were making in that game, which seems to be the only way you can beat them.
Yeah, you definitely coined that for them to lose, they have to not play well. With Sydney, definitely, I think they gave them a great taste of their own medicine. We saw their slick ball movement, their skills are just so beautiful, and they just moved the ball at will so quickly, and you just saw Grimes and Bolter just be absolutely bamboozled.
Rattled, yeah. You never see Richmond rattled like that. It was weird it was kind of fascinating to watch because we're so used to them being just like clinical and professional. Yeah. Yep. And Sydney were doing that to them, and there was just goals coming out of packs and out the back of stoppages and stuff. It was nuts.
Teams will go to work on it.
Yeah.
It's probably, I'm sure teams have been doing a lot of work on the Tigers for a little while now, but I don't know if we've seen someone do that to them too comprehensively all too often.
It'll be really exciting to see how the Swans, kick forward from now on for the rest of the season. But we've talked about some of the winners and guys we think have been doing really well to start off the season. Who's the guys that were kind of disappointed or a bit shocked by? Maybe we had thought they wouldn't have been so great, but what we've scene hasn't been great. One I want to say is I think the Giants. I think we expected them not to perform well, but these first
certainly
3 rounds. What do we think, Lance?
Well, one of the only predictions I did get right pre-season was that Giants would be a big slider into the bottom 4, I said. And now losing Canelio, Davis and De Boer, I think I'm pretty happy with that prediction so
they
far.
always cop injuries.
Yeah,
they're always like these unlucky impact injuries, but I swear they get more than most.
Yeah, credit to them though. They did play really well in that Melbourne game. I think they literally just ran out of steam in the end and out of fit players because they were all pretty much dying towards the end of the game, and a couple of serious injuries there towards the end. But
they're cooked, mate.
Yeah, I think that
this is a team that was going to win 3 flags and dominate. They'd got all the riches in the world, and they might not get 1 flag out of it.
This could be big. On blocks
Exactly. It could be big. It could be big for.
Yeah, you think that we've always thought they've had 100 players in the 2s just waiting to step into the side, and we're finding that extra stock is coming limited now.
Yeah.
They're losing it. Well, AFL Limited talking about the limited supply at the Giants.
The gift that keeps on giving. Yeah, they're in a fair bit of strife. I think the Giants they had their chances 2016, 2019, probably their biggest hopes, and all of a sudden now they're probably looking down. They're only going down now, so that's a bit of a scary thought as a player, especially as a senior player. The Giants, so they'll be looking at the club in a different light now, so they've got a bit of work to do, a lot of work.
Absolutely. Now we've got North and Saints to comment on here. We might talk about the Saints when we get onto your review, Daniel.
Yes, please.
Tiz, you're ready to tee off on the Kangaroos, and I'm of a differing opinion, but please tell me your thoughts first.
Put the gloves on.
Well, it is one of the worst losses for the club ever. Such a massive game, you know. I wouldn't be the man for the logistics on all Good Friday, but a lot of work goes into it, and it's a massive game. A lot goes into it. And they just failed. They're obviously competitive in the first half, but after half time, the Dogs were just way too good, and it looked like North they gave up. They just ran out of steam as well, like the Giants. But the Dogs were going to be a very hard team to beat this year, that's for sure. But if you're getting over 100 points, that speaks to an effort thing. So
quick little one, will they win a game this year, North?
They'll get someone at some stage, but
probably Geelong.
Oh my god. What are your thoughts, Jake?
Well,
what do you think?
I thought you were going to go a bit harder, to be honest. But
wow!
A little bit there, but,
just a noteworthy news point, mate.
Everyone's talking about, we're going to relegate North to Tasmania, and I don't think that's an unfair discussion, but people are going hard on North this week, and I was fully of the expectation that this year they would have those sort of losses. I think we just need to let them go through their rebuild. It's been a poorly managed rebuild, and there's new people at the head of the club now that are steering this. I think good people. Noble seems like a pretty good coach, pretty good bloke.
Jake,
so only 3 games into it, but
128
I
points.
I realise that, Daniel. I realise
128.
that. It's only round 3. They haven't got their act together yet. There has been glimpses of good. They have had some. Well, Tom Powell would be one. Jaden Stevenson certainly is one. Luke McDonald's still out injured. So
Davies Uniacke
has been really good, actually. Probably not so much in the Bulldogs game, but I think we just need to give them a year. Same argument goes for the Good Friday game. Just let them have it. Don't have that hovering weight of anxiousness of ripping that game off them, hover above the club. I just think give them a year, give them whatever they need, not too long, but this year definitely just give them some time and space to get themselves right.
Everyone knew this was coming. I think in our pre-season we all said North were going to be absolutely shit. We all said it. Even at the end of the trades when they dumped 10 to 15 of their best 22 players and said we're not going to even bother to replace you with someone of equal talent.
I think
got draftees. We all knew that this was going to happen, and it's what had to happen. There was an interesting article. I can't remember who wrote it, but you guys might have seen it this week, where someone said back when Brad Scott, just before he got the sack, he had come and said we have 3 options. We can either keep doing top-ups like we've been doing and we'll just keep middling out and go bad. We can do a little bit of bringing in some talent and getting in some young talent. Or we can axe a bunch of these guys, see what we can get for some of these good players like Sean Higgins and stuff, and then bring in young talent. That was back in 2017.
They said got rid of Petrie and
they said that's a stupid idea, Scotty. we're going to go with the top-up talent. They brought in Polak, they brought in all these guys. And now they've hit this stage of, all right, we need to do the rebuild now. Whoops, maybe in hindsight, we could have gotten a top 15 pick for...
wrote that article, I think.
Maybe we could have got a top pick for Higgins back then, or for some of these guys. Ben Brown, at least, you could have gotten something back then.
I just think if every club is giving the efforts expected, there's not 100 points difference between any two clubs. And I think it's an unacceptable loss. I know it's a once-off, hopefully, but it's an atrocious performance and a soul destroyer for anyone who loves North Melbourne. So it hurts. There is some good youth there, but particularly for North, who, like you said, with Tassie and stuff, they're the first to get the boots stuck into, so they can ill afford things like this. And like Tiz said, it spoke to some poor effort, which is not good.
And speaking of effort too, that probably brings us into the St Kilda Essendon game quite well. It's all about effort, because if Essendon can bring out performances like they did against St Kilda, it goes to show how much of a mental and internal game football can be. If they're losing like that the week they did before against whoever they lost against, losing Shield, Draper, Caldwell, and then they bring out this effort against St Kilda.
Yeah, it's crazy, and you're right. I think St Kilda all of a sudden, a few question marks.
Yeah.
Because I think they were everybody's best friend at the start of the year.
Yeah.
Oh, we love the Saints, they're on their way up, probably top 4 challenges. All of a sudden it's like, oh, jeepers, we've lost 2. The one we won was against a team that's probably struggling as well, and we just got there.
With a questionable umpire decision.
Every win's a good one, but hey, we're not firing on too many cylinders here, so yeah, we can delve deeper, I guess, when we do dissect the game, but yeah.
Well, please.
I think that's what we're leading into.
That was
right. Sorry, the news section has just moulded into the review section.
That's called a segue.
Welcome to Media 101 with the host of several years of a TV show.
With the only one of us here is a journalist. But
yeah, well, that one, it's been a long day.
Yes,
but yes. Anyway, so the main takeaway was the fact that we're touching on effort.
Yes.
And it was crazy to think that they could lose all those talented players and still produce such a performance. So,
yes.
I mean, what have the Bombers, been doing the first couple of weeks, really? I mean, it's when they can play like that, it's bizarre, such a high and low between their best and worst. So, I think many Bombers fans would have been thinking, well, is this what we can expect for now? Or was this a purely reactionary thing to a poor couple of weeks? But I think they'll be inconsistent. It's probably the Saints that are probably the big watch out of this one, I reckon.
It was interesting in the Saints, because you were thinking maybe they could perform really well against the Bombers. I was thinking on the side, this is Saints' chance to show themselves and to play well and show that we are contending this year. Crouch was coming in for his first game back with those suspensions. I thought that we could finally see how this new midfield is going to gel. And really, they just fell apart, didn't they?
And Gresham with an ACL, was it? Is that correct or no?
Achilles. So out for the year.
Golly. Yeah, I heard he was out for a year. Yeah. So that's a major blow.
They'd really need Ryder and Marshall back.
Yeah,
right now
don't they
give
ever?
them some structure.
Yeah.
And
McKernan got owned as well, from all reports.
Really?
By 2 metre Peter got it.
Yeah.
I was
going to say,
Essendon, and then
even by who? But yeah, so bizarre. A result like that. I mean, that was following Sydney and Richmond, and we're getting all these results going. What the hell's going on with footy? So.
Your boy, Darcy Parish, career high touches.
Yeah.
34, I think.
It's funny what happens when you actually play the number 3 draft pick in the position that they were drafted in and dominated in, isn't it?
It's weird, yeah. I wonder, I don't know, I'd love to hear the discussions why he always gets pushed away, because he always is good. I know he's maybe not the best kick in the world, but Jesus, he can find it.
That would be an interesting topic one day, to talk about players who are perennially played out of position and deserve to be played where they are best at. So it wasn't pretty viewing that Saints game at all.
I was expecting a closer game, St Kilda might just get over the line, because Essendon had to respond, and boy did they ever. 75 point loss. That's just a massive, massive. Hurts the Saints fans a lot, and that might hurt their finals chance that game. Could come back to the bottom. Massive percentage, loss out of that one.
There's some big calls in round 3, guys. It's costing the finals and stuff. But interesting, you did mention that the size of this loss, and we are talking about our top game. Shorty, I was wondering what particularly sparked your interest about this game to make it your pick of the bunch?
Well, what sparked it was probably St Kilda and the expectation, I think.
Yeah.
I felt they'd probably get the job done against Melbourne the week before. You know, two clubs kind of vying. You know, both would be thinking, we're better than the other. You know, they lose that. And then the Bombers, you know, they would have been thinking, this is one that you just put in the book and you get the job done. And not only did they lose it, but they got thumped, which is uncharacteristic of a side that we think's on the up. So a couple of big outs, like you said, Jake. But just from a pure stats thing, I think like Steele had 35, and I think the next best was 18 or something like that. Yeah. So that's insane. You know, you rarely see that.
And Crouch got 15. I think was that his first game?
It was his first game.
Yeah,
because he was suspended, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah, the 2 games off. Yeah.
So. Interesting.
Like Bordeaux says, they're one-pace midfield, so it's funny how quickly things change. But
it felt like last week we sort of gave St Kilda an out because they played in that wet, rainy game against GWS, and they're like, oh, that's right, we'll give them that one. And you know, Melbourne seemed to be pretty good this year, and now it's like you said, there's big question marks coming for the Saints. So
I think that's clutching at straws as well. We saw Richmond in that massively tough final against Port Adelaide, and that didn't really matter from then on. But but not everyone's Richmond.
I'm glad you brought up Richmond because that perfectly brings us on to our next game.
That's a great segue.
Was
good segue.
Richmond and Sydney, as we mentioned, the Swans absolutely smashed Richmond. Richmond were making mistakes that they haven't made like that before. I hope Bondi can hear us, who's a Richmond fan in this house. I'll say it a bit louder.
Nah, he would have gone to bed.
That's the worst.
Just like the Tigers did, it seemed.
That's the worst I think we've... Oh my God! Excuse me. I wasn't even the one who went to the
medical sub for Langer's voice.
That was the roof of my mouth collapsing from that hot party.
Oh my God, can you please keep that in?
That was the worst we've seen Richmond play since they got smashed by St Kilda, funnily enough. I think in the last round of 2017. And
that's right.
They got smashed. I think it was like about 70 points as well.
Yeah, we got them pretty good when they had like a fair few injuries.
They had like 11 or 9
a lot out,
injuries.
But you don't see it very often.
No, absolutely not. And the Swans pressure game was elite, and I think the best way to highlight that was, if anyone does watch the highlights, there was a scrum sort of 20 metres out from Sydney's goal square, and it was just like pressure, smothers, pressure, ball skids out, and then Chad Warner gets on the end of that goal and just absolutely sails through. These kids, we've got to talk about these Sydney's kids. It's incredible. Goulden, Braden Campbell, Chad Warner, Wicks, Logan McDonald. There's too many in a name almost. And then you are getting, like Chook mentioned, you are getting these performances from Kennedy, from Parker, from Mills, who's taken his game to the next level. Lloyd's still there.
Papley looked like he was up there.
Yeah.
Papley was reading the ball off the Richmond defender's hands, intercepting it like netball, like the four of us used to do in Wacting in social netball. But
nice segue.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was incredible to watch, and I don't think any of us saw this coming. I thought the Swans might push Richmond, but I don't think we saw this.
Well, I think there's a few people deep down in our hearts. We were like, I could maybe tip the Swans here, maybe just to see what they do. You know, they're young, they're excited, but. No, I mean, we all went Richmond. It was just, there's no way we could have possibly fathomed what has happened. And I think we've always thought that Heaney and Mills have perpetually been these young dudes that are waiting. They're the youngsters waiting to move forward and take a leap. They're taking their leaps. And there's 3 or 4 new guys to fill in that gap of already young talents to get that excitement.
A mate from work who goes for Sydney as well said, where's Will Hayward? Where's Ben Ronk?
Yeah,
Some of these kids, I completely forgot about Will Hayward.
Yeah,
he was their best.
He was the next big thing.
He was keep pushing Heaney's spot. He's not even in the team now.
I wouldn't mind Hayward actually.
We'll take him. And they've got Buddy coming back next week.
Yeah. And they just thought they'd give him a little rest.
How's the power move of resting him against Richmond at the G? Who they're dominative. Richmond don't lose. That's the one. Mr. Journalist.
Well, sometimes it comes in handy.
I just thought it was an incredible game to watch, and the fallout from it probably isn't terrible for Richmond, but for the Swans it means a lot.
Well, I think beating Richmond at the G is not just great for the Swans, but it's good for every other club too, because it's like, okay, so it can be done. If you're a Richmond supporter, what are you walking away thinking? Are you just like,
I think
that's a bit weird, a bit odd, but
enough in the bank that they're probably all going, well, well. You know,
Yeah,
things happen sometimes.
They've got plenty of credits, and they'll probably win back-to-back flags anyway this year. But
Oh my god!
I'd like to ask a Richmond supporter what they thought of the last quarter, but most of them are at the train station home, so apparently for more reports.
I don't think they'll be too concerned. I think they lost round 3 last year. I'm not sure if that was Hawthorn, and it was sort of a similar-ish margin. But look, they'll have, I suppose, a bit of concern, a little bit of doubt. But I think they tend to get it done at the point end of the year. When it gets really hectic. But they've also got plenty to improve on because Sydney have shown the rest of the competition how it's done.
I just couldn't believe it. I was lying on the beach and soaking up some sun and thought this day couldn't get any better. I checked my phone and go, wow.
Boy, oh
My
boy.
smile got even wider. Nothing could have took that away.
I was stoked.
So we've gone from some big margins. I'll take us to the smallest margin of all this week.
Tell you what.
1
Segway master.
point. 1 point. I'm talking, of course, about the Pies and the Lions. How did the Pies let this one slip? I'll just start. Big O was out and Grundy dominated that ruck. And it just kind of goes to show, does the ruck matter if it's not getting in the hands of talented footballers bringing it forward? Yeah, the Pies were going well from the beginning. You know, getting a lot of the ball, getting a big margin. I think even in the last quarter they were up by about 15 points at some stage. And the Lions just came. But what do we think about the ruck situation? Do we think that does the ruck... Was it just a case of, it wasn't really that big of a deal, or...
It's been a discussion probably for a couple of years now about Grundy wasting his hit-outs. Tiz, I know you've been big on it before. There's a few times where he just hits it, Grundy, that is, hits it out to space, and then Brisbane midfielders just picked the ball up, and I wouldn't say they capitalised on it, but I don't
He's one of the best players on the ground.
Yeah, he was, certainly was.
He still
Because he had
wrapped up
28 disposals as well. It was clearly bogged for Collingwood.
The thing is, the Lions had... I don't misread him here. I think it was 4 or 6
4 hit-outs for the game.
total for the entire Lions, and he had about 50 or 60 something Grundy.
One interesting
How
thing
does
I
that
heard
not give you an
was
advantage?
in his dominant years, like absolute dominance,
2018.
Whatever the stat was, he grabbed the ball out of the ruck a hell of a lot more than what he has the year, like so far this year. Kingy brought that one to the radio, and he said, apparently the feedback from the Pies midfielders was, hey bro, like it's great for you to grab it out of the ruck, but we need you tapping it down our throats, man, and just maybe look to tap it, and so he's sort of taken that out of his game of touch. Maybe he needs to bring it back a little bit, but I think if you give Nick Nat that many hit outs, then West Coast will win the clearance for sure. I mean, that's just different ruckman, and Grundy probably isn't the best tap ruckman. His biggest strength is probably his around the ground work, isn't it?
Collingwood midfield has copped a little bit of heat for not using Grundy's dominance to their benefit before, and that's something they don't do very well. They don't use Grundy's hit outs, and they don't kick it to Cox very well. And then Collingwood fans don't like Cox because they think he's useless, but they don't use him like they should, because he is one of the most dangerous weapons in the AFL.
Wow.
He's an elite forward. He is an elite forward, and they don't utilise him very well. So Collingwood, good team. They're still hanging around the mark. They need to tighten up a few things because they could be doing much better than what they are. But Brisbane, pretty much a carbon copy of the Geelong game the week before, and aren't we glad that it wasn't a similar result for us?
It was pretty mad, but if you looked at it, the Lions actually had a few opportunities in those closing minutes where they looked like they were going to kick a goal to get them in front, and they just missed. They kept missing them, like simple-ish shots. I think Hipwood might have had a chance. I'm not sure exactly. I might be misremembering, but he missed a couple.
Had an easy one from 20 out.
Yeah, so they had a few chances, but it all ended in the hands of the boy who should have won them the game against the Cats, really.
The footy gods.
Bailey was not denied a second hero moment. Line up every child's dream. What was he, about 45? You could argue 50, and in a couple of years' time he'd be saying it was 65 out. He gets it straight through the middle after the siren and crushes a lot of Pies' hopes. That was what they needed for... If they had ended 0-3 after round 3, they would have been in our opening statement of teams are disappointing.
Quickest celebration off the boot I think I've ever seen. It was fantastic.
Since Andrew Mackey's goal.
Hit the boot and bang, he was off and running. But last 35 teams to go 0-3, only one has made finals from there. So it's crucial.
Sydney
the Bloods.
Yes.
And they're 0-6.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Stuff that
That's
stat.
nuts, yeah. There was a couple of lazy moments again. Lane's just taking aim at the Pies midfield. Two instances which cost Collingwood, letting Daniel Rich run around the back. And the last play, I think there was a defensive 50 contest for Brisbane. Rich and Pendlebury, I think it was highlighted. We're in the same contest. Rich ran upfield and delivered that ball to Bailey, which ultimately cost him the game. And I think Pendlebury was still hanging around the D50 and just didn't work with him, didn't man him. So you argue Rich, Pendlebury's near Rich doesn't get the ball and then he doesn't even make the kick. So
he was very good in that game. And I mean, that play where I'm trying to think of it, Berry had it at half forward and then Rich all on his own from 50 and he got
kicked a goal from 70 million metres out.
That's right, and he couldn't have a better man to kick it into Bailey as well. Like Rich just, I thought he was going to bomb it long, but he lowered the eyes and that ultimately got on the job done.
Rich really is a great player. We can't underestimate how great he's been for so many years. It feels like just yesterday that he was getting, bombarded by people for letting Gary Ablett Jr. off the loose in that final. But you can't judge someone off some early games or a single game. You always got to give them a bit of hope. And I think that's something in the case of the Pies. Something I noticed was the early rounds. I went to Collingwood versus Carlton, and every time the ball got in the hands of a young fella called Isaac Quaynor, he messed up the kick majorly. He absolutely turned it over, butchered the ball against the Blues, and I was prepared to go, wow, he's not looking good this year. What's he doing? But that game this week, he absolutely was magical. He got so much of the ball. He was electric, giving it to everyone. I was really impressed, and I was like...
It reminds me of when Janison was up and about. That's how Quaynor plays, just grabs it and runs, and he's a really good kick.
It was really impressive. And also, you were talking about Cox before. That's another case of someone who's probably with the last few years, everyone's saying he's hopeless, but he started out this actually showing some consistency to start out the year, actually looking like a guy who isn't just going to pop up randomly in a final to win the game. He's going to actually play throughout the year, take the marks, and kick the goals as well. His kicking's always been something people have been maybe a bit iffy about, but I'm prepared to say he could be reasonably up there in the top goal kickers for the year if Pies can hold on.
And I think it'd be interesting to watch Lachie Neale's fitness as well. He'll be a crucial part to the Lions' future. And I think the back niggle, that's not what you sort of want. I think I read that correctly.
That's correct. We saw Cripps with a back injury shake off his issues seemingly
for this week at least. But I mean, that's what backs can do. Like when Hawkins had those concerns a while back. One week he looked okay, other days he just wake up like trash. But
it's probably from being up against the wall for so long. You need to start
McCluggage, really good final term. Hasn't been given much love. I reckon he
hasn't been given much McClub.
Nice.
He won a really good one-on-one contest late in the game, which is critical.
McClutchage?
There we go. Just going west. Did you have anything on that game too to finish off? Or?
Well, I think the Pies played better. Throughout the game, they looked like they really sort of had it there. But I mean, Brisbane had all the field position late, and when it counted, they stood up and they had all the field position and. They made the big moments count, and they're pretty happy now with 1 and 2. They could have been 0 and 3 very easily with a misstray of the kick or a not chance kick after siren. So
I don't think there's any major concerns for the Pies. They look much better than what they did in round 1.
Yeah, they've performed better than I expected. I thought they would have been a bit worse off on the win-loss category.
They'll be spewing they lost it,
100%.
But definitely, it's a good all-round performance. You just be spewing that you lost from that position.
Yeah, they would have been 4 goals up. But
speaking of
spewing and clutches.
Big Saturday night.
You 3 all went to the game today. I wasn't able to, but I certainly watched it. So it'll be interesting to get your thoughts on being at the Geelong Hawthorn game.
Yes.
Live and vice versa.
First time at the MCG since the 2019 preliminary final against the Richmond Tigers.
Oh my god.
Sick memories. It was if you had more flashbacks.
The first half was good for that one. Yeah. But this game was crazy. Easter Monday, Geelong and Hawthorn. Even though on paper Geelong probably win well, but it's a funny year, and these games always somehow go down the wire, whether they should or shouldn't. It was Geelong by obviously 5 points in the end. It was great to be back in the atmosphere, especially with some big highlights late, which we'll get the boys discussing. And there's quite big moments there. But Geelong, that again, kind of like last week, they had a lot of control throughout the game, and they got to 30 points up, and you're like, okay, cool, yeah, 1 goal away from nearly breaking the neck of the Hawks, breaking the camel's back.
Very aggressive.
Very aggressive.
It's getting pretty crazy, but Hawthorn very, very defensive throughout the game. So often, even when they would turn it over, they still had men behind the ball. Short brought that up when we were sort of discussing about the game throughout the piece, and Hawthorn sort of waited till a bit later on, because if they played that style in the last quarter for the full game, Cats probably cash in on the turnovers. But Geelong, they've got some issues. I think they've got plenty to work through. They'll definitely take the 4 points, and it would have been very brutal losing the game. But I think there were times where we just had some really shallow entries and didn't really challenge the Hawthorn's defence enough, and they took the game on, and they were pretty good. Like Hawthorn, I think they'll surprise a few this year with a few unexpected wins, as they have already done. But
on TV, it looked like a shocking game for the first 3 quarters.
Wasn't good to watch.
And then the last quarter was probably some of the best footy we've seen from most of the games this year. And Hawthorn really pushed, as they did against Essendon as well, came back late and really pushed. But I think we've spoken short about some of the concerns about Geelong's game style, quite slow and
just a ball movement thing.
It's going to get found out.
We're seeing a lot of other teams take advantage of this new ability to play a bit quicker, and at the moment we don't seem to have any desire to do that. Scotty seems to be saying that there is a desire to do that, we just can't execute it just yet. But you're spot on, those first 3 quarters, oh goodness me. Well, it's ironic, we're trying to be short and methodical and measured, yet still turn it over. So
Lies just kicks it at the feet of every player.
If you're going to make mistakes, you may as well make ones that are daring, and potentially if they pay off, the rewards a little bit higher than. In terms of the atmosphere though, and Chook can speak to this too, because he was there as well. But you're right, the last quarter, pure footy entertainment was fantastic.
It was really exciting stuff. You talk about...
Sounds like...
Sorry, I'm just tired. I've been screaming at the footy all day. You talk about breaking Hawks' necks. I was scared about breaking a pigeon's neck in the beginning of in the centre bounce. It just didn't want to leave.
That was
Brian Taylor didn't want to stop talking about it either, did he?
Nuts about it.
Was he? I bet he loves that
David
stuff.
King actually tweeted that pigeon had more centre bounce attendances, that Jaden Stevenson actually had a Collingwood his whole career at Collingwood.
Wow, just let him drive by Jaden Stevenson for no
Can you be
reason.
typing that going? This is great, mate.
Stuff, because Jaden Stevenson now plays for North Melbourne.
But no, I thought the Cats, you mentioned it, for a team that really has so much talent. You got Isaac Smiths and Higgins, or not Higgins for a while, but you have them in your team. You should be running and gunning and getting it to arguably the biggest, toughest forward in the league, Tom Hawkins. And you're not. You're chipping it away. You're going back and forth, back to Stewart, back again to Tui, back to Stewart, back to forward, and then going for a roost it long. Well, why didn't you roost it long when you were 30 metres further forward? It's an interesting tactic, and it did work a lot in the game. Technically, they managed to get those entries, but is it worth it when you're not getting enough entries and it's not as exciting as you thought? Final thing I wanted to say is, you did joke when we were discussing Brownlow tips early in the year. You're like, Chook's going to say Cam Guthrie. I went for the logical choice of Nat 5. But, 40 touches. He was arguably one of the best last week as well. And Guthrie's got about 5 or 6 votes already.
You had the stat on how much Guthrie and Duncan had.
Yes, 80 touches, Chook. So 43 to Guthrie, 37 to Duncan. They probably didn't use it amazingly well today, but we definitely needed them to get the ball as they
Duncan
did.
used it really well.
For his first game
Guthrie
back,
had a few little junky touches, but Duncan was really good.
Guthrie's work inside was
really good.
best on the ground.
Workhorse,
really good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So CJ for the Hawks, though.
What
a man he is. I'll give him the 3 votes today.
To see him in person, how well he actually runs, and as you said, I think last week, you considered him he's just an intercept marker sort of. He just runs and guns whenever he feels like. I felt like guys were looking for him as the mature head to know what to do.
What was it like when he got that 50 and just like sprinted?
That was insane.
On TV, it just was
like the Olympics.
I thought it was the stall gift.
He
just was screaming.
He may have got a bit too excited and just kicked it straight to the Cats.
But the crowd erupted.
It was nuts.
He is based on what I was hearing around me, has quickly become Hawthorn's favourite player.
Yeah.
Same
well,
with how
just-
Sicily and some of these guys
He just
really
has
jumped up.
He wasn't playing like that last year from
No.
what I can remember.
There's a
Like,
select few that when they get the ball could go to them. The crowd sort of, you hear
Yeah.
it, the Dusty, Cyril, He's just
CJ.
he's
Yeah.
just about,
That's great.
he was at that level today, that's for sure.
It was great to watch these.
He just has no fear, and the Hawks are gonna love that. They've got a really good player in him, and he's gonna be a star in the future. So
Talk to me about the play of the day, though, Tiz.
Player of the day. Well, I'll tell you what a moment. So I cannot think of the guy's name, but I believe it was number 14 for the Hawthorn Football Club.
Was this the
Daniel
Daniel
Howe?
Howe, number 17?
Might
Is this
have been
Jack
Howe.
Henry
Yes,
intercept?
the intercept. So
he made a couple of mistakes, actually.
Yeah.
Hawthorn fans were not kind to him in the Facebook comments.
So the Hawks obviously had to take a few more risks there, down a bit, back to the wall, so they go in the corridor a bit more. But this kick in particular was a really good kick. However, Henry just had the reach. He had enough, and then stole off Burgoyne, and then he had 3 Hawks on him, and then he just ducked and weaved between them. And then Jordan Clark just comes absolutely steaming through the middle. He's running as fast as I've ever seen in my life. He nearly beat Usain Bolt's record along with CJ. So it was amazing. His handballs back and forth, and then they all of a sudden they're inside 50. They handball the Hawk, who's just standing still, and there's 3 blokes coming at him, and he gives it out, and it bounces out for Henry, and gives it off to Clark, and Clark just kicks a goal, and the MCG erupted. It was amazing.
It probably proved to be the game-saving intercept.
Yeah,
because Hawks were coming big time, and 5 points. Yeah,
it was a crazy moment.
Henry was great.
It really goes to show his athletics background. No one really talks much about his athletics background as much as Blitz and that. But he was a quality athlete as a youngster, and he clearly showed it there with that pace, and it shows the importance of not giving up once you think your part of the contest is over. Many players might have handballed it off to Clark and then gone for a quick shepherd and then slowed it down. He stayed in it, and it worked out in the end.
Had he have kicked that goal, that would have been a ripper goal of the week contender for sure.
And prior to today, he'd taken 4 bounces in his career.
Yeah, he took a couple.
It was a sneaky little one today. We'll see that one a lot more than his other 4.
I love talking about the Cats a bit more. I love the youth that they're bringing in. I reckon this year's going to be a really good year for the Cats. Just sort of balancing out. I know we got a couple of older players, but keep playing Clark, keep playing Constable, keep playing O'Connor, who's turned into an elite midfielder and beaten 2 Brownlow medalists in the last 2 weeks. Constable had 10 touches and a goal in 9 minutes of play on the field.
Thank God for the super sub, because he didn't. I was a bit upset when he got dropped. I think he deserves his chance, and hopefully he gets to stick at it.
Tom Atkins in defence was.
He had to play late.
Yeah, which probably also potentially saved the game. Yeah,
kept it in front of him. The Hawks were out, and he left his man, took a big risk, and then he just kept the ball in front of him, and all of a sudden Cats had possession of the ball. But these teams, no matter where they're on the ladder, they always deliver the goods. They occasionally get a few blowouts, but by and large, they're always a classic to watch, whether you're a Cats fan, Hawks fan, or a neutral fan. So another good game to watch.
I think the Hawks fans will be pretty upset, obviously, that they lost, but there's probably a sign of good things to come for the Hawks this year. So
I reckon. Let's finish off the rest of the round with any other little quick ones, Langs.
That's all from me. Yeah, just really impressed with the Swans, and a couple of disappointing losses.
Well, the Crows obviously got the job done by 10 points. That was a really good game to watch. We mentioned about obviously the Lions, and they got the win by a point. The Dogs, a humongous win, 128 points. We mentioned Sydney just overwhelmed the Tigers.
They sure did.
Just like I am right now. Essendon by 75 points. West Coast and Port Adelaide was a really big game, and the Eagles, returned serve 37 points, not 73 points. Carlton did a nice job on Fremantle with 45-point win there, and we mentioned a bit about the D's, 34-point win, 5-point win to the Cats, just sneaking over the line there. So that was a bit of a wrap-up of round 3, guys.
Nice.
It was a rip around. Like I said at the start, it felt like it went for about 10 years.
Yeah, it was a long
Thursday
one.
night was a long time ago, and we're going to round 4 now with a couple of massive clashes coming up already. This Thursday night game, if you look at this last week, you think, oh my goodness, this is going to be an absolute blowout. But Sydney versus Essendon should be a pretty decent game, actually, based off the performance from last week. I think it's probably safe to say we're all going to tip Sydney in this game.
I think the Swans. I think the Swans are the SCG. Yeah, their footy looks superb at the moment. So, and them at home, Bombers have a few out, but yeah, I reckon the Swans.
Yeah, Swans for me too.
Yeah, Swans.
Looks like, fair enough. Port and Richmond at the Adelaide Oval. I personally can't see Port losing 2 in a row, but I also kept saying that Adelaide surely can't lose 9, 10, 11, 12.
Bit of history
in a row
between
last
those
year,
two clubs.
so-
Bit of recent history in finals.
Yeah, absolutely. Port for me at home and would make things interesting for Richmond.
I think Port Adelaide just. Richmond also don't want to be losing 2 in a row, but I think Adelaide Oval's the only reason I'm tipping Port, but it's going to be a tight one.
Yeah, I'm going to go
Revenge.
Port as well.
Revenge.
I'm going to go Port and as you say, the home ground advantage swaying me.
Yeah, both teams coming off disappointing losses. I think Port's probably going to be showing a bit more.
Okay,
I'm
well,
gonna
I
go
thought
Port
one
as
of us
well.
would tip Richmond. There you go.
I was very tempted, but
I think Cochin did his hamstring too, and McIntosh is out, so
Okay.
yeah.
Alright, well.
Yeah,
That's
McIntosh will
interesting.
be out, so a couple of... That's never really affected them before. And remember, last year or 2 years ago, Richmond went to Port and had like no one.
Yeah, that's true.
No
Tom-
Dusty,
Yeah,
It's the birth of Tom Lynch in the hearts of
Yeah,
Richmond fans.
absolutely.
Okay, probably.
no Dusty, no Cochin, no Rance, no Rewalt, and they won.
No worries.
They,
No
they
worries.
got the job
Yeah, they
done
won.
as you
That's
do.
crazy.
It's crazy.
Geez, Saints and West Coast at Marvel Stadium.
Jumping ahead on the run
That's
sheet.
right.
Yeah.
Let's just stick with the way we're
Oh,
going.
sorry, I just...
No, it is a
Saints
tough job,
and-
guys.
Saints and the Eagles.
Saints and the Eagles?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
gonna be a game.
tipping the Eagles
Big game.
based on form. I don't think Saints will come close. Based on
Hello.
their performance
Whoa.
from last week. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tip the West Coast Eagles also. I think that'll be
Interesting.
Wow.
I think they're looking the goods at the moment. Their ball movement's really good. They just went down to the Dogs, and I see them winning this game.
West Coast actually smashed Port Adelaide, so
That's correct.
that was 2 weeks ago. But look, that's what Easter round does to you.
I'm going to tip the Saints.
Really?
Yeah, I think
Any reasoning? Or?
a little bit of gut feel. I think
That's
West,
my thing, man.
I think West Coast are going along nicely.
Yeah.
I don't think they're.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people thought they were sliding. You know, before a couple of weeks ago.
Us too.
Yeah, and I'm still in that camp, Cookie. No, I think Marvel, St Kilda at Marvel,
Yeah.
are still a very tough team.
Yeah.
I'm just reaction.
Yep.
Yeah, true. You almost swayed me there, but I'll go the Eagles
Okay.
with no comment.
Yeah.
No comment, nice.
We'll jump back to the Bulldogs and Brisbane Lions in Ballarat.
It's gonna be cold.
Yeah, it's going to be cold. I'm probably going to tip the Dogs just based on form for this one.
I also will go the Western Bulldogs. They don't play at Mars very often, probably once a year, but yeah, I think they're ticking along well. Brisbane probably not in great form.
Yeah, they're the hot team, aren't they? I'm tipping the Dogs.
Dogs are just too exciting.
Woof woof. Next up, now this one,
Tough.
Ooh.
every time I tip this game annually, I always get it wrong.
Yeah.
Gold Coast
Yes.
and Carlton. I've tipped Carlton just because whatever, but I do think Gold Coast have lost a few players with injury and Witts being out and having no recognised ruckman is
that's
going to be
true.
hard.
That's a good point.
He's down. He's in
Oh,
there.
is he done
they
too?
haven't.
Yeah.
He's down and out as
The
well.
next tallest player I think was like
Burgess.
Burgess. Yeah.
And Day's out as well.
Yeah,
isn't he?
Day was
So
just
he-
injured last week.
yeah.
So
Gee, just
Yeah.
get Oleg Markov doing
Oh.
it, I guess.
Only because of the home ground, I'm going Gold Coast, but Carlton are the hardest team to tip. You don't tip them, they win. If you tip them, they lose.
so
So.
like you with GWS last year.
Yes. Oh, they got me like 20 times. Oh. Yeah.
This is a soft tip. You know, I'm going to have to think about this a little bit more. I'm going to go Gold Coast at the moment, but that ruck issue is that's a very
Throwing
big
a spanner
thing.
in your works.
Yeah, it has. It really has.
Goodness.
Oh, I'm going to go for the Suns as well, I reckon.
Yeah.
Only thing to
and
beat,
sweet.
only thing that beats the Blues is a bit of sunshine. Bit of positive attitude, everybody.
We'll whip through the last 4 games. So
Oh, boy.
Collingwood versus Giants. Clearly, I'm going Collingwood here, but
Yeah, Pies at the G, I think. GWS is good.
Agreed.
Magpies as well.
wonderful. Yep. Next up, we've got North Melbourne and Adelaide. I think everyone's going to go Adelaide here.
I'll go the Crows on this one.
Yeah, go on the Crows, mate.
Ditto.
He says.
Jeez, when he says we
This-
whip through them, we are whipping through them.
Absolutely. This one is giving me heart palpitations already, thinking about Cozzy Pickett kicking 8
Oh my
goals
God.
against our slow defence.
She's
Geelong
good.
versus Melbourne at the G. Geelong because...
Because you support them.
No confidence at all, but
I'm
yeah.
going Melbourne.
Yeah.
Whoa, hello.
At the G,
Yep.
we've been a bit shaky there and we're not in great touch at all.
Yep.
And D's on fire.
I'm going to go the Cats just because I think we get a couple back. I think Cameron and Menegal will definitely come back.
Point,
but you're right. Melbourne's the form team.
Jerry Cameron.
Yeah, I heard a couple of weeks away still, but
Did you?
I would love to see him come back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Short heard this week.
Yeah,
Okay. So
We'll wait and see.
Yeah, I hope he comes in.
It's our meeting.
I hope one of you is talking to the right doctor.
I'll be back in the Cats with no confidence, but
Right.
giving them the nod.
This next one, Freo and Hawthorn at Optus. Depending if Fife comes back, I'll tip Freo. If not, Hawks.
Wow.
I think Freo just at home.
Yep.
Get the
I'm
job done.
really confident on Freo.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll go Freo as well.
Yeah,
Go
that's
the Dockers.
surprising considering Hawks' effort today. So
Freo, Pifo.
I think
way
they're
to go, way
bloody.
to go.
I think
that
they're bloody
shows
good.
more
at it.
about our
yeah, for
lack
sure.
of confidence in the Cats than it does in how much we valued the Hawks'
Yeah.
performance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
If anyone listening has got this far into the podcast, please make sure that you are...
There's a vote of confidence.
Yeah. Please make sure you're commenting Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're getting a bit of fan engagement, which we love to see. We love talking to the fans and hearing from them. Get around the polls, get around the hashtags or all the other visual content that we're putting up on Instagram. Boys,
You're
thank
putting
you
up a selfie soon?
Oh, I
Topless?
well...
Anything for those likes.
Anything for the
He's got
likes.
3 buttons undone right now.
Thank you, boys, for joining me. Thank you for joining me on this late episode of AFL Unlimited.
Very
the AFL
happy to
Unlimited
be
late
here.
show.
Very late indeed. Thank you very much for having us on board.
Thanks,
It's good
boys.
to be here.
You'll hear from us next week. Have a good weekend. Thanks for listening to this episode. Make sure you follow us on Facebook and Twitter. AFL Unlimited, because footy is limitless.